Incoming transmission.
The Klingonese word of the day is Geb.
These are the voyages of the starship Enterprise.
So, this is a huge victory for the good guys.
Scotty, beam me up.
Resistance is futile. Live long and prosper.
Boldly go where no man has gone before.
Greetings and welcome to the Computer Resume podcast, the show covering the entire Star Trek franchise in chronological order for fans new and old. I'm your host, writer-comedian, Mr. Todd A. Davis. What can I say about my guest today that hasn't been said in a 6-hour recording session that crashed my computer twice? From the island of Manhattan, all hail the Trek Queen of NYC. It's Flippe Kikee, yay!
Hi.
How are you?
I'm doing great. I'm excited to be back. I'm excited to trek out.
So excited to have you back on. It's long overdue. And that is my fault.
Oh, I think we've both had a lot going on.
Yes. We will spare the audience the details. Needless to say, regardless of whether or not we're on the mic, Flip and I are actually very good friends, and we talk frequently. A good chunk of it is about Star Trek. So just different circumstances have kept me away from the microphone, and I'm getting back in the saddle. Hopefully with the new year right around the corner, you'll be seeing more of me and Flip, possibly together, in some sort of Star Trek thing. Who knows? Who's to say?
You know what? The possibilities are endless. We live in a sci-fi franchise.
Who doesn't love a crossover?
That's right. Anything's fair game. You never know who you're going to see and when.
Since our last recording, I'll say, I think there's been a couple of things that have come out in the franchise. A couple news things have dropped. How has your Trek fandom progressed since our last recording? What are you excited about in the franchise?
I try to hold space and excitement for anything Star Trek because I just love it. I try to walk into it with a hopeful optimism, which I think is what Star Trek teaches us.
Of course.
I'm really excited about a lot of the things. I cannot wait for Starfleet Academy.
Yeah.
I'm excited for the possibility of what that show can be. I'm liking what we've seen so far. Like the casting sounds amazing. The trailer looks great.
Yeah.
I think that they are starting to explore some new territory for Star Trek, but I think that it's necessary because, this franchise has existed so long because of the fans. And the only way that it continues is if the fandom continues. So I think that gearing it towards a younger demographic while still staying true to what Star Trek is just, it's intelligent. It's a smart move. We talk about us older people, myself as an elder millennial. There's a lot of conversation, as there is throughout history, about the older generation speaking about the younger generations.
Of course.
And, there's a lot of concern for the younger folk and how they are navigating the world that they are finding themselves in, a world of technology and parasocial relationships instead of, in-person relationships like we had growing up, before the internet.
Right.
And so I think anything that is aimed at people in that age group that shows them how to foster connection, it's only going to teach them the principles that are needed for all of us to create a better humanity.
Yeah.
That's the message of Trek. And I think everyone on this planet should hear it, old and young alike.
Yeah.
So yeah, Starfleet Academy, very excited. Sorry, went off into a little thing, as I do.
This is a safe place to do that.
We know that I love a good ramble. And then I'm super excited, like personally, for the nacelle action figure line. I'm an action figure collector. I always have been, and I always will be. They bring me joy, and I cannot wait. I mean, there's a few that I can't wait to have, but that little Year of Hell Janeway, she's going to be on my shelf right where she belongs in her chair with her phaser rifle and a mug of coffee.
Yes.
But yeah, I'm really excited about that. And more Strange New Worlds. I'm so excited to see where that series continues to go. It's done nothing but impress me. I think the last season was a lot of fun. It
Yeah.
really allowed itself to play and experiment. And I think that's what art should be allowed to do.
Mhm.
You know, they've continued to do the genre hopping and they've really done it in a way of not repeating themselves
Yes.
and giving us something new while also staying true to the series that they are becoming. I think that
Mm-hmm.
series has a really clear identity with itself and it's not trying to be anything that it's not trying to be.
Yeah, I always recommend Strange New Worlds to film fans
Mm-hmm.
because of the episodic nature of it. But really, each episode does watch like its own movie. And,
Yeah.
sometimes that movie is a comedy, sometimes it's a horror, sometimes it's an adventure, sometimes it's a mystery. All of those things are really great and speak to a different section of the audience at large.
Yeah.
Before we get into our thoughts today, because you said something and it sparked a thing in my brain. I was talking with my trainer at the gym the other day. I said that just so people know I'm working out.
I was going to say, I was like, we get it, Todd.
We get it. You lift weights. Okay. Um,
Fitness life. I'm on the Deanna Troy lifestyle. I stretch every now and again and I eat chocolate. And I'm like, I don't understand why the cat suit's so snug. Um,
but I did have this conversation, when you're listening to this, we are actually in November of 2025. We're next week is Thanksgiving, and we were talking about holiday movies and things of that sort. And I always watch Tapestry around Christmas time because if you look at the structure and what's going on, it's very Christmas Carol. It's a Wonderful Life.
yeah, the revisiting of your past. It's true.
Yeah.
I hadn't thought about that lens of that episode. That's really clever. Yeah.
You could probably watch any Trek anytime, any day of the year, I imagine. But do you have any Trek that you specifically visit around a particular day of the year, a holiday, or something along those lines? Is there any Trek like that for you?
I do. I do love all the series. I love all the casts and I love all the movies. I do have favorites, as anyone does.
Hmm.
Voyager is really, that was my first like Star Trek soulmate. Like I
Gotcha.
loved The Next Generation.
Yeah.
I appreciated Deep Space Nine,
Hmm.
but with Voyager, there was a click with me of like this captain, this crew, this message
Yeah.
really resonated with me. And I think it's because of just like, a lot of queer individuals will say that about Voyager because, like any Star Trek, it does touch on the chosen family aspects, which we're going to talk about later.
Hmm.
But Voyager really pushed that home. They really acknowledged in the show we are a family.
Yeah.
It wasn't symbolized or hinted at. They said it.
Yeah.
So that's the one I usually go to when I'm wanting that family feel. And I try to go to the episodes where you have them in those kind of situations where it's the whole family working together.
Hmm.
I mean, my first like joke answer was Star Trek Generations
Oh,
because Picard has that Christmas scene in the Nexus. And I'm
yeah.
like, it's a Christmas movie. There's a Christmas tree.
That is the logic behind a lot of people's choice of what is and is not a Christmas movie. And
Hmm.
it is nails on a chalkboard for me. I've had this discussion with Kat a few times of like, there's what are known as situational Christmas movies of just kind of like, this story is not about Christmas. It just takes place at Christmas
Hmm.
time. And there's movies like Shane Black. Anybody who's familiar with Shane Black's work, Kiss Kiss Bang Bang, Lethal Weapon, you can run down the list. A lot of them take place at Christmas
Yeah.
and have nothing to do with Christmas.
I was thinking of Die Hard.
Iron Man 3.
Yeah. My dad was a big action fan, so I grew up with those movies. And like,
Yeah.
yeah, we would watch Die Hard every Christmas. I was going to say, if I did have to pick a Voyager episode that gives me that family vibe,
Yeah.
it's Shattered, the one where Voyager is broken up into different temporal spaces and Chakotay has to navigate it. And along the way, he basically recruits the crew from different times. And I love, like, that
Yeah.
one does feel family to me because it's like, it's Maquis, B'Elanna, it's first season Janeway before they'd even gotten into the Badlands. There's Seska, like, even crazy Aunt Seska makes an appearance. So it really is like the whole family, unfortunately, aside from Kess. That would make that episode like, that would be like the penultimate to have, like, she had Fury, but that one didn't feel very family. She was a little angry. Um, but I like Shattered because it is about them, even though they don't know each other yet, there's that instinct of trust and that reliance on each other to come together to save the
Mm,
day,
yeah.
which I think is a good holiday message.
Yeah.
I tend to get reflective around the holidays
Mm, yeah.
because of my own history. So I would say I did notice that I've watched Tomorrow and Tomorrow and Tomorrow
Yes.
with La'an and Kirk.
Yep.
I don't know if it's because that's in Canada during the winter, but that it's such a winter feeling
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah.
And it is that question of when you're alone in the world, the way La'an is,
Yeah.
how do you connect and who
I,
do you connect with? And so that's something that, like, it's not a holiday thought of mine, but it's definitely a winter thought of mine. I think we all become a little reflective in the winter, things quiet down, there's less going on.
yeah.
I think that's what you're supposed to do,
Mm,
reflect so that when spring comes, you're ready to rebloom.
yeah.
But yeah, I have introspective holidays.
Same way. My birthday is also around the holidays, so it's always
Oh
very
yeah.
much an assessment of the year before and where I'm at in my life. And I didn't do much of that in my teens and 20s, but now that I'm in my 40s, it's kind of like, yeah, let's take stock. Let's look back and, see where we did really well. Where can we improve? What are our goals moving forward? And, those
What
types of
goals
things.
did I check off?
Yes. Yes.
Like, yeah, it's not, I think a lot of people look at that as like, it's like, oh, but that would be so depressing to take stock of my life. And I'm like, it shouldn't be. You should be celebrating the wins. You should be celebrating the lessons learned, the cycles broken. And it's like, okay, maybe you didn't check everything off the list, but you're still in the middle of the game. Like, this is just a touch base. This isn't a, oh no, I haven't done it yet. Yet. You haven't done it yet.
Yeah. And it's something that, yes, you can do that and you can do that alone,
Yeah.
but to do it with the chosen family
Mm-hmm.
where you can all share that, where you're in a place where you're comfortable sharing those things.
Yeah.
It's it doesn't have to be depressing. It doesn't have to be
No.
such a terrible thing. I gave you a little grief about Generations because there's a Christmas tree in it. But honestly, and I'd had this, I didn't recall, but generally I like to watch Tapestry and then watch Generations because not only do you see Picard go through that, you get to see Picard guide Kirk through that
Yeah.
of him reassessing his life and
Yeah.
before he makes a decision of no, I'm going to stay here. He realizes, oh, this isn't meant to be. This isn't reality. This isn't my life. And given a choice of how do I want this to end, and get to see him. It's Christmas morning, like not literally, but he does
No,
get to
yeah.
he gets to punch Sauron, or not Sauron, Dr. Soren.
Yes.
Now I'm crossing Star Trek with Lord of the Rings. I'm sorry.
You know what? Sci-fi names, it happens. I was calling T'Pring to Paul in my notes because I mentioned to Paul came up in my watching, as we'll talk about it later.
Yeah.
And so that created a disconnect in my brain. And I was like, no, the finality can't start now. Not while I'm recording.
We've mentioned it a couple times. Let's get into it. Today's episode, we are talking about season 2, episode 5, Charades. So before we dive headfirst into spoiler territory, let's talk a little bit about our general thoughts about this very special episode. Very unique amongst other episodes of Star Trek, I would say, not just in Strange New Worlds, but in the franchise overall.
Well, I'm always excited to see Nurse Chapel. I love that Strange New Worlds is giving us a clear view of these established characters, and they're really allowing us to develop them a lot further than they were allowed to develop in the original series.
Very much. Yeah.
Not just Spock, but the things they do with Uhura. and the things that they're doing with Chapel are just chef's kiss. And I also just love Jess Bush. So I remember when I saw the trailer for this episode, I was like, oh, a Chapel episode. Fun. Like I
Yeah.
was really excited. But that was my thought. Those were my thoughts going in. And I would say 5 seconds in, I was immediately locked in and on board because that's how long it took me to realize this isn't a Chapel episode. This isn't just a fun episode. I was like, this is a Star Trek romantic comedy, like straight up, no smoke and mirrors. They're giving us like montages and voiceovers, which, all of that fits in Star Trek, but the way that they did it, I was like, someone's watched a Nora Ephron film or two.
Yeah.
That's for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, you're absolutely right. Before we move on, I want to say Jess Bush does such a great job. We could sing her praises the entire episode. She's absolutely marvelous in this. But the one thing I want to say, and it's not the last time I'll mention this particular aspect of performance, but she says so much with her eyes. Her face is so expressive. She speaks volumes with a glance. She's
She,
absolutely fantastic. Love, love, love Jess Bush.
yeah, like I said, it was in the cold open
Yeah.
that I realized what was going on, and the reason I realized it was because of her performance. She's obviously being presented to us as our leading lady in this
Mm,
romantic comedy, and
mhm.
we've seen her as a really competent officer. We've seen her as a really fun friend personality. Like we've seen so many layers of Chapel at this point in season 2, but for her to take on the lead of
Mm.
like, I'm going to carry this episode.
Yeah.
And, that does take something. That takes something as an actor, especially on a show that's setting a caliber that Strange New Worlds is setting.
Oh, for
And the
sure.
fact that not only did she take the lead, but she took the lead in a way we hadn't seen Chapel do before. We've seen her be funny, but like the looks on her face in that turbo lift scene with
Yeah.
Mbenga and Spock alone, that's a whole story. You could just watch that scene and you know what she's thinking, what she's feeling. You see it, and it's not overdone. It's beautifully played.
Yeah.
And to see her open earnestness played against Spock's aloof, like he has his blinders on. He doesn't even know what's going on.
Yeah.
It's such a great dynamic because it explains their relationship so well of like as a very emotional human, because Chapel is, her emotions are right, she's very expressive. And so to see how her expressiveness plays with Spock's facade of no emotion,
Yeah.
and to see how they rub off on each other, that's a good dynamic. So to see it framed in this romantic comedy framing,
Yeah.
it's really fun. I've watched this episode far too many times because it's like, well, I don't have 2 hours for You've Got Mail, but I can watch Charades. I have an hour.
I don't normally get into technical things about an episode when we're in the pre-spoiler section of a discussion, but I will say hearing her voiceover as she, moves about the ship and, kind of sets the scene and then moving into the turbo lift. And of course, they have the great scene there in the turbo lift. This is all pre-theme
Mhm.
there with Mbenga caught in the middle between the two of them. Such a juicy scene. But then Spock gets off the turbo lift and the voiceover continues with him, which I
Yeah.
thought was a really interesting way of taking the audience through the narrative. Generally speaking, you only have one character doing voiceover personal logs
Yeah.
for an episode. But when you've got something like this, which
Mhm.
totally is a romantic comedy, it is about these two people. So
Yeah.
why wouldn't it? Why, the audience is following their story, not
Yeah.
necessarily one particular character. So it makes sense for the camera to follow her into the turbo lift with her voiceover and to exit
Mhm.
with Spock and his voiceover once he gets off the turbo lift.
Yeah, that really does establish, like, not only is this a rom-com, but this is a star vehicle above billing. This is a Meg Ryan, Tom Hanks, and they really do establish that format because I picked up on that immediately. Like, she starts, she enters. Now we know what she's doing. We know what she's up to. We know where her head is, and then Spock leaves the turbo lift. He takes over. It lets you know immediately that this is a two-hander. This isn't going to be one-sided.
Yeah.
Something's about to happen with their relationship. And at that point, it's been nothing but glances and nothing but subtext. So to find, like, immediately before the credits roll that it's like, oh, we're about to get some answers, and I can't wait to see what they are. And I'm already having fun, and we're only 5 minutes in, so I know that this is going to be a fun ride, which is also going to be crucial to these characters.
Yes, you're absolutely right. And as much as we've sung the praises of Jess Bush and Ethan Peck so far in our discussion, there's a lot more to unpack, and so many great performances from the regular cast, from the guest cast, and behind the camera as well. We're going to get into all of that. But before we do that, let's get to this week's recap. Brought to you in part by our Patreon supporters, Rev J, Jerry Antimano, Kitty B, Ed Milner, Fleet Admiral First Class Fred Sims, and Wren, Sir Chauncey Dalton Featherstone Waugh III, Esquire, Zitzman Chiropractic, Dawn Ringheiser, and Nate D.
Spoiler alert. Spoiler alert. Spoiler alert.
Mr. Spock,
What's happened to me?
you were in a shuttle accident.
Seems to have made you human.
What the I feel different.
Don't you get it?
Angry. Hungry?
I'd slow down a bit if I were you.
I'm making up for lost time. We're working on a cure.
If we can't change him back, he's gonna be stuck like this.
Do I smell more human?
Spock and Chapel are nearly killed when they encounter a portal created by a higher dimensional race who heal Chapel but accidentally reconfigure Spock's half-human, half-Vulcan physiology to that of a full-blooded human.
And on that note, we cue the music.
This happens as Spock is preparing for an engagement ritual with his fiancée T'Pring and her bigoted parents T'Pril and Saavik. Spock's human mother Amanda Grayson boards Enterprise to help Spock prepare. Spock doesn't tell T'Pring of his condition, hoping not to worry her, and relies on the crew to help disguise himself as Vulcan and stall the ritual until a cure is found.
Meanwhile,
Chapel convinces the Kerkovians to return Spock to normal by confessing to them her feelings. Spock completes the ritual, which ends with him making a telepathic connection to his mother that shows him how difficult it is for a human to love a Vulcan. Spock then reveals the ruse to call out T'Pril's bigotry. Offended that Spock hid his condition from her, T'Pring asks to take a break from their relationship.
we were on a break!
Spock later admits to Chapel that he also has feelings for her, and they kiss.
And there was much rejoicing.
Hey, this is Todd Stashwick. I play Captain Liam Shaw of the starship Titan. But if you ask me if I want to listen to the Computer Resume podcast, I say yes.
Okay, so now we are in spoiler territory. Oh gosh, watching this episode, and this is one of those rare instances where I watched the episode multiple times before making my notes and before the recording today, aside from my initial viewing as a fan. But the thing that stuck out to me the most is the suddenly a fish out of water, and this ship and this crew and these circumstances, which should just be another Tuesday for Spock, really. This one incident in the shuttle, investigating this portal, has turned his world upside down. And to top all that off with, oh, now I have to meet my girl's family. Which is anybody who's dated anyone, or to be honest, it even extends beyond romantic relationships. somebody prominent in your life, it's always a little weird to meet that person's inner circle. Introducing the chosen family to someone else is always, it can be a little awkward. And, when the stakes are of a romantic nature, like I think back to, first of all, it's hard to it's hard to remember all the relationships before my wife Kat and I got together, because we've been together for the better part of 20 years at this point. But dating in high school and relationships around that time, I remember meeting sets of parents and just kind of being like, "Hi, I'm an eccentric weirdo. How are you?" Um, have you ever been in this position? Any instances like this jump out for you in your memory?
No, because I like, great, Todd. Yeah, we get it. You work out, you have a successful marriage, you're really crushing it. Love that for you. Some of us have been single for as long as we can remember. No, I mean, I haven't done it romantically, but I remember anytime I meet a close friend's family for the first time, I think you want a validation that they see why the person they love chooses you, whether
Yeah.
it's as a friend. And I think it also just triggers, that happens a lot when you're a teenager. You make your friends at school, and then if you get closer and closer, you eventually meet each other's families. And of course, when you're that age, you want a stamp of approval, especially
Yeah.
from someone you see as an adult authority figure. You want so and so's mom to be to like you.
Right.
So I think that never goes away. It's just that you're not put in those circumstances as much as an adult. But when you are, that those feelings come right back up of like, I just want to be liked. I just want to stand. I want to get a gold star from mom. Um,
Yeah, of course.
and it is funny that that's universal. It's not just romance, as you said. It is in platonic relationships as well. And it's nice to see that it like spans between planetary cultures.
Yeah, again, we're here, we're getting to the holidays. I recall last year at the holidays, my father-in-law visited, and he's much older. He's lived a very different life than I have. And I was a little under the weather at the time, so I was sitting on the couch, and I had an episode of Star Trek on. He walked into the living room and sat down. I said, we don't have to watch this." He goes, "No, no, no, it's Star Trek, right?" I was like, "Yeah." He goes, "Yeah, I like Star Trek," and it was one of the it was one of the few times that I kind of bonded with my father-in-law. It was just like, I had no idea he was a Trekkie. This is so cool. But he's a Navy man. He's much older, so Kirk was his guy. And it was a really nice moment of connection. So yeah, you want that validation, but I think there's also a reminder of it's that thing that you learn as a kid growing up. At some point, there's a clue that your parents or your teachers or whoever the parental figures in your life are, oh, they're human, like, and they're just trying to figure it out just like me. And I think it's always a nice moment when you connect with someone other than, hey, teacher student or parent child, or when that gets broken down to, oh, we are humans just experiencing life day after day pretty much the same way. And I don't know that there's a lot of that here, other than Spock kind of getting one over on T'Pring's mom in the end. But yeah, so those are always heartwarming moments to have. They're always very cathartic to see in a narrative. And yeah, there's a lot going on. There's a lot going on in this episode. I think you've got some points for this. What stuck out to you?
The Spock storyline, separate from Chapel, is really when they elevated the genre.
Mm.
They could have easily done like a popcorn selling rom-com and just had fun and light, but it's like in true Star Trek fashion, they decided no, let's make a point. Let's do this, but let's not do it without purpose.
Yeah.
And I think that's what gives it such rewatchability. And I think it's also what just makes it really be able to breathe, because it's not just like hijinks and humor. There's also a core message, and that's, Spock's storyline. I see there are the elements of those movies like Meet the Parents, or
Yes.
Guess Who's Coming to Dinner, which is not a comedy, it's a drama, it's a family drama.
Yeah.
So you have this like really lighthearted comedic tone with Spock dealing with trying to masquerade the charade of being Vulcan.
Yep.
You have Pike as, his father figure because his father's not there.
Right.
And that's when I realized that we're not just seeing a family drama, we're being presented with three family dynamics. You have T'Pring's family,
Mhm.
which is a little dysfunctional, which is hilarious because they're Vulcans.
Yeah.
To be dysfunctional is illogical.
Yeah.
But there it is. And then you have Spock's family, where you see Amanda as the supportive mother who only wants the best for her child. So she offers us the counterpoint to T'Pring's family dynamic.
Yeah.
And then the third family is the most important in Star Trek and the most through line of every Star Trek series, which is the chosen family. We see this through the montages with Chapel in the beginning, where she's studying to apply for this Vulcan study, this Vulcan fellowship. And we see the crew rallying around her and supporting her and helping her study. And then we also see it when Spock is trying to imitate himself. The crew rallies behind him and they try to help him.
Yeah.
And it's like, that's what a family is supposed to be. They meet you where you are. Spock's human today. We're not going to judge him for that. We're going to help him. We're going to meet him where he is and help him reach the goals that he's trying to reach, which is impress T'Pring's parents.
Yeah.
There is no making him feel like, it's like, well, you don't need their validation. It's like, no, they respect that in Vulcan culture, he does. He absolutely does need this validation. Now, should T'Pring's mother be such a raging, probably not, but she is. That's who she is. And so it's a lot of different personalities coming together. Some you love, some you hate, some you love to hate, but that's a family.
You're absolutely right. You mentioned something I just want to tack on to the end of that. The idea of these varying personalities and this dysfunctional family encapsulated so well in those first few moments of Sevek trying Pike's food, loving it, and the mom coming in and squishing it immediately. It's like,
he wants to be a nice guy.
Yeah.
He wants to enjoy this. As a Vulcan, probably understands this ceremony is important for his daughter's engagement, his daughter's marriage, but he wouldn't mind enjoying it. And unfortunately, that's just not the woman he married.
Yeah.
And even like as unlikable as she is, you understand her.
Yeah.
You understand that duty, and this is Vulcan. We've seen these Vulcans before. This is the society she has been raised in. So it's like, it's so easy to write her off as the villain of the story. But it's like, again, these are just people. These are people doing the best they can do. They are living each day for the first time. None of us are perfect. And so I kind of love that while they acknowledge how difficult she is, there's no judgment passed for how difficult she's being. It's just like, and I think that's also like, that's going to open her mind as a person in the future off screen. We may never see her again. But when you meet someone where they are and you acknowledge them, but you don't judge them, that's the beginnings of maybe them seeing. You don't have to be defensive. You're not being called a bitch. People are just acknowledging that you are one. And so that's going to make you more apt to maybe look at yourself and be like, am I being? Maybe I am. Maybe I should change. As opposed to if you just insult someone, they're not going to be listening to you.
Right.
So I thought that the crew of the Enterprise and Spock handled her with grace. And Amanda, especially as the mother figure, she was really the example to be leading.
Yeah. And like on a level where the stakes are just as high, like even though they're not having to, reverse the polarity and eject the warp core, like it's tense. It's really,
Yeah.
really tense. And I think I think that says a lot about not only the writing of the episode, but how well everybody played this scenario of,
Yeah.
yeah, we're not saving a planet full of billions of people. We're just trying to help our friend deal with a unique set of circumstances that are impacting this very important moment in their life.
We're saving a marriage.
Yeah.
Like we're saving like that's a big deal. I think it's so beautiful that this episode shows us that the situation does not have to be life and death for the stakes to be high.
Yeah.
That's more relatable to us as the viewers. We don't get to go on a spaceship and have our life threatened by alien species and have technology try to kill us and we have to save the day at the end. Like we like watching that for the escapism of it. But this episode offers us more of a connection with the characters because we're seeing them navigate something we can understand. We're seeing Chapel navigate her feelings for Spock. We're seeing Spock navigate his feelings with his own identity. On top of that, we're seeing them navigate this relationship with his fiance and her family. And it's so illustrative that in real life, you're never only dealing with one thing at a time. Your plate will always be full. You will always have work. You will always have personal life. And then you're going to have your own personal journey.
Yeah.
And they show that in this episode. Chapel's on her own personal journey, trying to advance her career while exploring her feelings with Spock. And so it's like, yeah, this isn't a typical Star Trek plot, but it is such a typical Star Trek story.
Well said. One thing that really stuck out to me, and maybe this is because I am a comedian and have studied comedy of varying degrees, varying types of comedy. One of the things that really stuck out to me, and we've championed Anson Mount and his delivery of Captain America-esque speeches on this show. But one of the things that he does is so subtle here and comedically is absolute gold. He is walking with a tray to bring food to this super tense moment between these people, and he gets there and just does a hard right turn, and you see his face, his eyes get huge. It is the funniest subtle thing that I've definitely ever seen in Star Trek, and comedically is so perfectly delivered. I absolutely love that moment.
I love that moment specifically because of why I love this episode. There is not one character wasted in this episode.
Yes.
You understand every character's point of view. You understand every character's motivation. You understand every character's role in this story. And Pike's role is, like I said, he's the surrogate father figure in this situation, but he also just wants to show off his cooking. He was so happy that they were like, now let's eat. He's like, great. And you're right. He comes out with this expression of like, yay, I get to show off for a second. And then the room has turned and he's like, not going in there. Wow, that was short-lived. And you see all of it play. You see all of it play across his face. It's not overdone. It's done pitch perfect to where the comedy is sold without making a clown of these characters. None of these characters are turned into clowns.
Yeah.
They are simply in a ridiculous situation.
Yeah.
All around. I think of the moments with Spock when they're really establishing what human Spock looks like. Like, what does that look like?
Yeah.
And I love that Ethan Peck, he seems to have approached it with a childlike wonder at everything around him, whether it's finally getting the joke or getting to eat bacon for the first time. It's like, that's relatable. Like who hasn't accidentally overindulged on bacon because it's so damn good, and then you're like, why am I nauseated? It's like, yeah, welcome to being a human, Spock.
Yep.
And the humor beat started before the main story picked up. I also love the scene. They're very clever. These are episodic. They need to be able to be understood on their own while fitting the narrative of Strange New Worlds as a whole. And I think it was clever that they opened during Spock's touch base with where is he in this episode? What's he going to be doing? They showed Pike cooking, and that planted those seeds of like, oh yeah, Pike cooks. That we're going to do something with that.
Yep.
And they did a nod in that scene that I just absolutely love. We all love when Trek references itself. But when he wanted to have Spock smell, I think it was basil or it was some kind of herb. Yeah. And that's when he mentioned the nasal suppressant that Vulcans take when they have to live amongst humans that we've not heard about since T'Pol in Enterprise.
Yeah.
And it was such a perfect, like, it worked for the scene. You don't need to know Enterprise to know it. But if you do know Enterprise, it reminds you that, like, these characters are all part of a larger world that are connected to other characters that we love.
Yeah.
And it also, I think that mentioning T'Pol in this moment reminds the audience of other Vulcans and how other Vulcans can be, which sets up perfectly for meeting T'Pring's parents when you're like, oh yeah, I forgot how they are. Because T'Pring's parents are much more in line with how Vulcans behaved in Enterprise pre-Starfleet. They are very rigid. They are very judgmental. And it reminds you that not all Vulcans are like Spock. And it explains T'Pring's struggle, which we'll get into later. But yeah, the comedy in this episode, it's unmatched. You know, you have it from everyone. I think of the scenes where they're trying to train Spock to be Vulcan again.
Yes.
You know, the whole cast gets a part in that. And there's some really funny stuff. But for me, my favorite was when they were trying to coach him on imitating a mind meld. And it's Una and Pike doing their best to try to encourage, but all they're really doing is micromanaging and like stressing him out more. You know, the golden nugget for me in this episode was I never thought I would hear a Star Trek character look at another Star Trek character and say, "You sound constipated." And it's said so perfectly that, and by Una of all people, it's like, you can't be like, no Star Trek character would say that. You'd be like, well, she would, right? He does. Yeah. Like, she's not wrong. So you can't, she's just like, where's the lie?
Yeah.
And a lot of the humor is, the best comedy is found in truth. Yeah. They're not trying to be funny. They're acknowledging the ridiculousness of their situation.
Yeah.
And instead of letting it be life and death, they're having fun with it, because at the end of the day, sometimes life should be enjoyed, even if it's not a fun dinner party. It can still be it can be a funny story.
Yeah. You know, and maybe it's because, you know, producing a podcast, you really get in tune with certain things in people's voices, certain tones and things like that. And even when he's sitting there and very forcefully, very commandfully, my mind to your mind, my thoughts to your thoughts. Like, us as Trekkies are just like, oh wow, that sounds horrible. Like,
yeah,
I'm like, no, that's nowhere close.
Like, yeah, sorry, Spock. Like, yeah, in that scene, it's almost like Una and Pike get to be our voices of like, yeah, no, they need to help him because he's not.
And even Lon, who Christina Chong, if you don't know, is a fantastic singer vocalist. She does this thing very. It might be the most over top thing, but she drops her voice a few octaves. I'm Vulcan. I love logic.
I love that scene. I love how they're all ribbing him a little bit. They're also genuinely just trying to help him. Mm-hmm. And it's also such a good example of your friends knowing you better than you know you. Because he's like, do I really sound like that? And they're like, yeah, you kind of do. And again, as the audience, we can't disagree with them. It's like, yeah, you do. Like, we don't realize how stiff he is because he does it so naturally. Mm-hmm. When Ethan Peck is playing the true Spock, he does such a good job of balancing internal emotion with his outward performance that we don't see the stiffness until it's gone. And then it's like, oh, wow. Like, it really is. This episode doesn't just show him as a good comedic actor because of the removal of the Spock performance as we know it. Mm-hmm. It allows us to appreciate that Spock performance to like a really high level. Like, he is giving the character the same amount of weight that Nimoy and Quintos has given it. He really gets the character, and you can only play the character badly when you know what good is. Like he
Yeah.
knows what true Spock's voice is, and that's what allows him to not do true Spock's voice. And that's when you realize it's not instinctual. This is not Ethan Peck instinctually playing a Vulcan. Because if it were instincts, he wouldn't be able to turn it off the way he does.
Yeah.
And it really does highlight the technique.
Absolutely.
You brought up La'an, and the other thing I loved in this episode, now knowing the future of Strange New Worlds, I won't say much because I don't want to spoil it for people watching with you. But that scene, we haven't seen them interact that much in the series yet. And what they do in that scene, it's such a beautiful foreshadowing of what's to come, while also not being overhanded or overplayed. It works in this episode. If it had gone nowhere, it would be fine.
Yeah.
But when you know what happens later, and I think that's good Star Trek, is when there are layers on layers on layers, so that when you do rewatch, you're picking up on things in a different way when you know what happens the next season or how something ends. And I think that's so cool. I just love that, like, knowing these writers, they knew where they were going in season 3. They seem to have a very clear, they have a clear guide of where they're taking the characters, even if they don't always know where the story is going to go yet, that they're exploring, but they have such a clear view of these characters and their trajectory that I love when that is planted there.
When I mentioned earlier about Jess Bush being able to deliver so much with her eyes, here again, Ethan Peck, here's the other side of the coin. When she injects him, you see his eyes change and he's Spock again. And it's like, first of all, a heartbreaking moment, but at the same time, like looking at the performance, wow, like what a phenomenal, subtle way to say this character is different. There is a coldness, there is a deadness, a stillness. I won't say deadness, but a stillness in the eyes to let us know, okay, Spock's back. And it's a phenomenal performance detail. I absolutely love it.
It really is. I know exactly the moment you're talking about because it read slightly different for me. You definitely see Spock come back, but what I love about it is that there's something in his eyes for me where you also kind of see him processing what's happening through his true point of view.
Yep.
And so while Spock is back, he's not the same Spock that he was before this. He felt the feelings that he felt. He felt them in their human form, which we know that Vulcan emotions just simply aren't as strong as human emotions. That's why they're able to be suppressed. A human would never be able to suppress their emotions to the level of a Vulcan because it's established throughout Star Trek that human emotions are stronger and more passionate. So he got to feel that. He didn't just feel his love of bacon. He started to feel his feelings about people in a different way. So it's like while the Vulcan mask is put back on, some bells can't be unrung. And that's what we see at the end of the episode. He has to accept that he does have these feelings. He can't act like they did. That would be illogical. And it's just one of the like we've established, this is on the surface, it's a romantic comedy, but it doesn't allow itself to only be that. There's also underlayers of family drama. You know, we're exploring racism and bigotry through T'Pring's parents. Like I said, it harkens to Guess Who's Coming to Dinner, that amazing Hepburn Tracy film. Which, you know, if the listeners have not seen that movie, please do yourself a favor. It's so in line with the Star Trek message of putting down old ways and learning a better path for humanity, and how it explores racial relations in the 60s with a biracial relationship. But we also see that nuance with Chapel in her own story. You know, Spock has been changed, and not only does she have romantic feelings for him, that's her best friend. So while he's dealing with like hijinks and family drama, she's dealing with the existential realization that my friend's life is on the line. There is a life at stake in this episode. And it's Spock. And that's Christine's mission. She picks it up, and she doesn't pick it up because she has a crush on him. She doesn't pick it up because he looks good in that uniform. It comes from a place of true affection and care for her friend. So it makes it so much heavier than just like two people realizing their attraction to each other. It's two people realizing how deep and true their feelings are for each other.
Mm.
And you see these moments of revelation throughout the episode. You see T'Pring have her own moment of revelation of, I'm trying to make my family happy. I'm trying to make Spock happy. And I'm trying to pretend that that is making me happy. But I'm the one in the middle here.
Yeah.
I'm the one being torn between my parents and my fiance. And I'm also realizing that my fiance just will never trust me with certain things.
Yeah.
And while his intentions may be good, she takes that moment to say, I can't do this right now. I can't do this. I need a break from this.
Yeah.
And I love that because it gives her character a voice. Because in a classic rom-com, she could easily be painted as the cold fish girlfriend that
Right.
the lead character needs to dump to get with our plucky, likable lead.
Yeah.
But they didn't do that to T'Pring. They allowed her a point of view. They allowed her motivation. They allowed her sympathy. We sympathize with her in that moment. She's breaking her own heart by acknowledging that this relationship that she's counted on being her future isn't going to work for her, and it's not working for Spock.
Yeah.
And maybe they both do need to reevaluate. They need to take a break. And the fact that was her takeaway from this, she's not just the girlfriend. She's her own woman. She has her own story that we don't get to see in this show, unfortunately, because I love that actor and I love that character. But I love that they really, the supporting cast, the writers and the actors, what they do in this episode is amazing. Amanda's performance, her, T'Pring's parent, everyone.
Yeah.
And no one's one note. No one, you have a lot going on, but they still were able to allow every single character to matter to themselves and to the story.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Do you have any other points?
Well, yeah, I think I've touched upon it. And, we've mentioned the chosen family.
Mm-hmm.
And like we've said, that theme is explored so much throughout Trek.
Oh, yeah.
It plays such a heavy role in every single Star Trek series. These crews are family.
Yeah.
And I don't think it's ever been illustrated to such effect and so succinctly as when Chapel is explaining to the Kokovians that we are not family.
Yeah.
We are something different, but equally important. And what really drove that home for me was when she's trying to explain it to them, and the Kokovians they're trying to understand.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh, so you're each other's caregivers or caretakers. And she immediately says no, but then she's like, but yeah. And it's like, that's so true. Like, that's what our friends are, the people. Our parents tend to care for us when we are children. But there's a moment in everyone's life where you leave the nest and now you're out in the world on your own. But you still need support in your day-to-day life. You still need people to lean on in one way or the other. And that's what our friends become. That's where the chosen family comes in.
Yeah.
Of like, your chosen family doesn't negate your family.
Yeah.
They're an extension of it. And they're the family where you get to explore the you outside of being someone's child.
Yeah.
And I don't think that relationship is respected to the level as it should be in our society.
Mm.
And I love that that's the big message of this episode for Chapel. She's not just reduced to the piney-eyed lead of a romantic comedy. She's also someone who is fighting for the life of her best friend. It's such a beautiful message.
Yeah. Yeah, you're absolutely right. I think again, looking at this episode has so many layers to it, but when, Chapel is trying to explain to Yellow what Spock is to her, there's a comedic aspect of like, hey, have you ever been on the phone with technical support? Like that, it has never rung truer than that scene. But at the same time, think about the people in your life. Think about the situations in your life. And I've heard this at a couple different places here. And so I want to see if it definitely rings true. They've been saying, like, take certain things in your life and imagine explaining it to an alien who has just arrived on Earth for the very first time. How do you explain Thanksgiving? How do you explain your spouse versus your friends? How do you explain shoes? Like, how do you explain certain things? Like, and I think in doing that, when you are presented with that opportunity to explain this to someone else, it also clarifies it for yourself. Of like, so Spock is your caretaker? Well, no, but kind of like that, and that might have been a realization for Chapel in that moment.
Oh, I definitely agree. I mean, Uhura is the one that expresses it. She's like, tell them that how you feel. And Chapel responds like, I don't know how I feel. So it does put her on the spot, and
Yeah.
it does force her to really look at it, which that's what we should all do. We all need to really look, especially when it comes down to something as important as the people that I surround myself with and the people that I choose to love.
Yeah.
Don't ignore those feelings. If you have feelings for someone, what the worst that would happen is that they don't feel the exact same way, but at least you've gotten it out.
Yeah.
And now you can choose how you navigate that.
Yeah.
I mean, I think we've all been there where we had a crush on someone, but they didn't return it. It's a very human,
Sure.
a very human experience. And as I've gotten older, I give myself credit because I've always just been very emotionally open.
Mm.
My first big crush in high school, God bless him, he got to deal with like a 3-page letter
Oh.
about my feelings. And he handled it so sweetly and so nicely. And he did let me down gently. And so there's a part of me that could easily be embarrassed by that. And I definitely do. Like, I'm like, wow, that was a lot. But I also honor, you know what? I was being true to myself. I was being true to my feelings. And without that experience, I wouldn't have the lesson that I learned from that experience.
Yeah.
And the lesson I learned was, well, that didn't end my life. He didn't like me back.
Yeah.
I survived it. I moved on. And I learned in that moment, I was like 15. That's when I got to learn that lesson of speak your truth, because what's the worst that can happen?
Right.
It's not going to destroy your life, even though at 15 we think everything's going to destroy our life. And I think it's really intelligent of Star Trek to remind us of that lesson and to show it in such a beautiful way of when she not only establishes that she has a crush on Spock, but she establishes that like this isn't just a crush.
Right.
This is something real and deep and worth exploring.
Yeah.
Because I think up until then she was kind of probably telling herself like, get a grip, like he's engaged, let go of this.
Yeah.
And she needed to realize like I'm diminishing my feelings. That's why I can't verbalize them, because anything I verbalize would be a lie. If I were to say it's just a crush, there's a part of me that knows that's not the truth.
Yeah.
And so she had to get the truth out.
Yeah. Just to just so you're not just out there, I did the letter thing.
Aw.
It was not received well.
They never are.
No, I also did the presenting of a single rose and singing in public.
Oh, Todd.
Yeah.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
I'm
Also
be
not received well.
Trying to be supportive. What do the kids call it? Cringe?
Oh,
Yeah.
so much.
I know that they invented the term the way that it's used, but I think millennials, we invented the behavior.
Yeah.
We like boomers would embarrass themselves, but only millennials perfected the art of being truly cringe.
That's it.
And that message is really carried through the entire episode. There's so many truths revealed.
Yeah.
T'Pring reveals her truth, her feelings about the relationship.
Yeah.
And I think the most beautiful truth is Spock having a moment to really express his appreciation for Amanda, for his mother, and the journey and the struggle that she's had having to be a human living amongst Vulcans. That's a truth she's not gotten to express because she was doing what parents do. She was carrying her struggle in silence so as not to put that struggle on Spock.
Mm.
And I think it's such a beautiful moment, and it's played to such beautiful effect by both actors in that scene.
Mm-hmm.
She lets him celebrate her, and she accepts the flowers of that, and she just thanks him for it.
Yeah.
There is no regret of often in these kind of narrations, there's that moment that I don't know, writers feel the the need to say of like, oh, why didn't we do this sooner? It's like, it doesn't matter when you do it. What matters is that now you've reached a new understanding and a new level of your relationship with someone when you're able to truly acknowledge them, especially your parents. I think that was probably the moment for Spock where he stopped seeing Amanda as his mother, and he saw the person.
Yeah.
And I think there's no greater thing that we get to experience if we allow ourselves is to see our parents as people.
Yeah.
Because it allows a deeper connection and a better understanding of like, no matter their mistakes, no matter, in T'Pring's case, there's a lot of conflict in that family going on. But I think that while there's conflict, there is genuine respect beginning in this episode, because T'Pring starts to stand up to her mother in the end.
Yeah.
And I think it's due to seeing Amanda's example of what a family dynamic could be.
Yeah.
And that's transformative on anyone who gets to see it.
You're absolutely right. And just to sort of identify with those things you just said about that scene and seeing your parents, it also kind of helps acknowledge how your parents have seen you yet conduct themselves however they do. I said it earlier in this episode of me introducing myself of like, hi, I'm an eccentric weirdo. Like, but your parents going like, yes, this is my eccentric weirdo child, and I love them, and I love them and would do anything for them. And, seeing how they just kind of, and that's what parents do. In a series like Star Trek where you can see yourself reflected in a character, I think the part that we forget to do sometimes, and I'm guilty of this too, is that we're also seeing other people reflected in these characters as well. And that kind of, because they're close to us, it kind of sheds light on that relationship, and we've talked before about how good science fiction holds a mirror up to society. Well, with an episode like this, where we are exploring these characters' connections and these chosen families, good science fiction holds a mirror up. And we're kind of getting to see other angles of these things, of these people connected to us, our coworkers, our chosen family, our parental figures, our buddy who just likes to cook, but we can't really get on board with this particular aspect because of whatever. This is an absolutely fantastic episode. And for people who dismiss it, you're wrong.
I mean, if you're dismissing it, you just don't see it for what it is.
Yeah.
I think that on the surface level, I could understand why certain Trek audiences might have a disconnect with this, because it is sci-fi secondary. So if you only want a sci-fi forward episode, then maybe this isn't the one for you.
Yeah.
And that's a shame, because it's such a beautiful story. And I do want to touch on one thing that you just inspired. We were talking about the Amanda of it all and how she's just such a great example of a positive parental figure to counter T'Pring's parents. Again, no one is villainized. No one is the villain of this episode. We understand that T'Pring's mother, this all comes from her wanting the best for her daughter. It comes from love.
Yeah.
Now, she needs to do some work on herself, sure, but she's not painted as a bad person.
Right.
She's just flawed.
Aren't we all?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then also the importance of accepting someone's flaws when you love them is so perfectly illustrated when Spock is forced to reveal to Amanda that he is now human. She doesn't skip a beat. This is her son in front of her, no matter what form he is in. She goes immediately to, what do I need to do for my son? There is no I feel like in the past, there would have been this whole crisis on like, is this my son? Blah, blah. Like, she doesn't go there. She doesn't even think about it. This is Spock. Human or Vulcan that is her son. She loves him unconditionally. And it's played so, it's illustrated so beautifully in that moment of her just saying, you're human. How are we going to deal with this? Not how are you, how are you going to deal with this?
Yeah.
What have you done? What has happened? She doesn't care what's happened. She cares about her son.
Yep.
And that's just beautiful.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
I think that's everything.
Okay. Okay.
I think we can start pointing fingers.
Okay. Well, folks, we have spent a lot of time so lovingly trying to peel back every layer and look in every corner of this episode. We've championed our main characters. We've championed our side characters. But as we do every episode, we ask the question lovingly, who do we blame? This episode was written by Catherine Lynn and Henry Alonzo Myers. Henry Alonzo Myers, of course, one of the many executive producers of Strange New Worlds and a writer. The last episode he wrote was the first episode of season 2, The Broken Circle, which we discussed with Star Trek Prodigy's Bonnie Gordon back on episode 129. Now, Catherine Lynn has an interesting, albeit short resume. She is a Filipino-American comedian, originally from Michigan. Her first acting credit was as an uncredited extra in The Weatherman, starring Nicolas Cage back in 2005. Have you ever seen The Weatherman?
I have, yeah.
It's a good movie. I really like it.
It is.
It's been a while
really
since I've revisited it. I might have to watch it again. Anyway, Catherine's first writing credit was almost a decade later on an indie horror movie she also acted in called Find Me, directed by Andy Palmer. In 2021, she landed a gig on a little show called Star Trek Lower Decks as an executive story editor beginning in season 2. Her first written by credit would be later that same season in episode 9, Wej Douge. Now, this is her first work in the chronology, but definitely not her last. And here's why that's noteworthy. Kat has been nominated for 2 Hugo Awards for her work in the franchise. I won't tell you which episodes, but needless to say, they're significant.
I do want to point out that it's not surprising that there was a female writer in the room. And also, you mentioned that she's Filipino.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, my great-grandmother was Filipino.
Oh.
And so anyone who knows Filipino culture knows that, like, family and duty and respecting your family is really important, as it is to many Asian cultures.
Yeah.
So that's not surprising now to see that you said she worked on Lower Decks as well. So it makes sense now, like, she understands Trek comedy because Lower Decks. And she also understands cultural and racial undertones.
Yes.
Because she's probably lived them. And also the strong voices of Chapel and T'Pring.
Yeah.
And, you know, the women characters in this episode being so dimensional yet perfect for the story. It makes sense. I'm like, that's why this is so good, because it comes from a place of knowledge and a place of truth, even down to the writer's lived experience.
This episode was directed by Jordan Canning. From her website, getsetfilms.com, Jordan is a 2010 graduate of the Directors Lab at the Canadian Film Center and an alumnus of the Tribeca International Film Festival Talent Lab, TIFF for short. She also has done TIFF Pitch This, and she is an alumnus of the Women in the Director's Chair. Her first feature, We Were Wolves, premiered at the 2014 Toronto International Film Festival. Her second film, Suck It Up, premiered at Slam Dance in 2017 and won Best Feature at the B3 Frankfurt Biennale. Her third feature, Ordinary Days, won Best Director at the 2018 Canadian Film Festival. And her credits include episodes of Schitt's Creek and Fraggle Rock, but also 23 episodes of something called Space Writers Division Earth. Here's the little one-line synopsis of this. Inspired by utterly fictional events, Space Writers Division Earth is the story of 2 out-of-shape nobodies who accidentally become Earth's heroes. Sounds a little like Galaxy Quest.
Yeah, I was going to say, now I want to watch this.
Yeah, it sounds like a lot of fun. I'll have to check it out. This is her first, but definitely not her last work in the franchise. And then we have some amazing guest stars. Mia Kirshner, Gia Sandhu returning as Amanda Grayson and T'Pring, respectively. We've sung their praises already. They are fantastic actors. Look them up. They're incredible. So thank you for your wonderful returns to these wonderful characters. And then we've got Michael Benyar as Savet. He's done a ton of voice work, but the first time you'd have seen him was in a 1987 episode of 21 Jump Street. He also appeared in 1997's Masterminds, which was co-written by Star Trek alum Chris Black and starring Patrick Stewart. So there's some Star Trek connections there.
Wow.
Yeah. Have you seen Masterminds?
It's not ringing a bell. I should look into it.
It's one of those rare Patrick Stewart as a villain performances. It's very like camp 90s kids movie along the same lines as kind of like Heavyweights or Camp Nowhere. It kind of fits in with those types of movies. But yeah, Patrick Stewart, as he's got a mustache, he might as well be twirling it type villain. It's wild. And then, of course, as T'Pring's mother, T'Pril, we have Elora. She's got a uniquely spelled last name. I'm going to do my best. Patniak. Elora Patniak. She's been all over TV for almost 30 years with credits like Beauty and the Beast, Orphan Black, American Gothic, The Expanse, Titans, Schitt's Creek. So we've got a connection there. And Law and Order Toronto. Yes, there is a Law and Order Toronto. And I hope we see her again in the future. She was absolutely wonderful here. So yeah, we've got some amazing folks. Michael Benyar, when I say he's done a lot of voiceover, like his resume is staggering. It's impressive. Anybody who's done voiceover for any length of time has a very lengthy resume.
And honestly, that's not surprising. Like, I feel like any actor who can play a really solid Vulcan, it's all in the voice and the delivery. Yeah. So that does not surprise me to find out that he's done voice acting, because I could hear that. It's like, oh, that checks.
And you know something that struck me about Elora Patniak, who plays T'Pring's mother. I saw in her background that she had some formal dance training. That was something that stuck out to me about, when I was at Trek Long Island this past year, I had the opportunity to talk to some of the other Trek actors who also had dance training, but their performance in Trek was one of stillness. And the question that I asked was, does your dance training, which is usually involving very fluid motion, does that help when it comes to playing a character who is so still? And the answer was a resounding yes, of like breath control, being able to sustain a position and not move is just as vital as being able to leap through the air, being able to spin, and all of these things. And that's one of the things I think Elora brings to T'Pril, is she is delivering just this venom-filled words while remaining so still, which adds to the performance.
Well, she has the carriage of a queen.
Yes.
And it's why, despite her abrasive personality, her carriage explains why she is respected and allowed to behave the way, why she's allowed to say the things she's allowed to say, because she doesn't give you the chance to disagree with her. It's like you already know that you would be wasting your breath.
Yeah.
And it doesn't surprise me. I took some dance when I was a wee one. And, the importance of knowing how to control something like your physicality means it necessitates an awareness of your physicality. And dancers, we are trained, if you take dance to any degree, you become very aware of your body and what you're doing. And so then it's easy to know what not to do. Like, natural physicality happens when you're performing, whether it's a fidget or something, and it can be so subconscious. So it doesn't surprise me that dancers especially have a leg up playing those very controlled characters, because that's what dance is. It's physical control.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I think from my own personal experience, I actually just got done performing at the New South Comedy Festival. And it had been a while since I had performed comedy regularly. But one of the things that I found in my performance, because they keep us on a very tight time frame because there's a lot of comedians to get through. And one of the things that I found in my performance, which I never thought would transfer over from the world of martial arts, was breath control. And I think that goes right along with what you're saying about dancers, not only the movement, but being able to control your breathing so that you can do the things that you need to do and say the things that you need to say. And I was rushing my performance at the comedy festival. I was rushing, and I knew it and couldn't stop. So I had to take short breaths and get through the next thing, but make it sound natural. And I found myself taking these shorter breaths so that I could say the thing that I needed to say in the time that I needed to say it, and then taking another breath and keep going on to the next bit because I have to do this thing. Okay, let's interact with the audience here. Here's the next thing. So being able to do that, as well as these actors, again, I'm a big champion of the day players, the folks that come in for an episode, knock it out of the park, and then they're on to the next thing. It's impressive. It's really impressive.
A bad guest star can destroy an episode.
Yeah.
Trek has a really good track record. Try saying that 3 times fast. Trek's track record is really good at picking phenomenal actors for supporting roles and guest appearances. I mean, we've gotten some great actors in Trek, like Academy Award winners. And again, this is another example of Strange New Worlds getting it right, understanding that those are the characters that the fans remember. We all have our favorite guest stars from every series, and sometimes they were only in one episode. But a good actor in the right part, that's all. You only need one episode to make a lasting impact.
Yeah.
And again, like we're both like, bring them back. Like that's when you know that it's good, because we want to see them again and we don't care how. It's like, well, to bring in Spock or on break, so them coming back would not be the most organic thing as of right now. And I'm like, figure out a way. I don't care how you make it happen. I will suspend disbelief as long as you give me a decent reason. It's fine, because they were that good. Like, I would love to see them again.
Yeah. Well, Flip, this is the time of the episode where we step back and look at the picture as a whole and ask the question that we do every episode: is this essential viewing? If somebody is sitting down and going through Trek for the very first time and they come to this episode, season 2, episode 5, Charades, is this a must-watch episode? Or is this one that they can skip? I think I know where you're going to fall on this.
I think every episode's a must-watch because
yeah, of course.
I'm a Trekkie. But I'll tell you what, I understand. I think that my qualifier for answering this question would be to clarify someone's intention. Are you wanting sci-fi adventure? Is it the sci-fi itch that you need scratched? Maybe this isn't your episode. And that's okay.
Yeah.
But if you want an episode that is going to enrich these characters that we love, that is going to elevate the narrative that's happening internally with these characters, then it does become essential viewing. And if for no other reason, it also establishes in canon where Spock and T'Pring's relationship is, because that becomes important in the original series.
Yeah.
It also establishes a further development of Spock and Chapel's relationship, which is a formative relationship for both of those characters, as well as a solid through line of Strange New Worlds.
Yeah.
So if that's why you're watching Star Trek, is to connect with these characters, then yeah, this is essential viewing, because there's no better character study of Spock's struggle as a human and a Vulcan,
Yeah.
and Chapel's struggle between her feelings, her goals. Like it just really paints such a clear picture of those two characters, as well as really showing the dynamics of the whole crew as a whole.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. Anything I would say here is basically just going to echo exactly what you just said. If you like seeing the crew work together as a crew, then this is an episode for you. If you love sort of the behind the lore of Spock and Chapel, that aspect, this is certainly a pivotal episode. Even if you're just on a Spock track, if you're like, Spock's my guy, ride or die, then this is a must see episode.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, if you're into the big overarching plot, which there's nothing wrong with that either. But then, yeah, this is probably a footnote. It might not be, in the regular watch list of certain folks, and that's okay. But we've always said it's not the ship, it's the crew.
Yeah.
And this really highlights some pivotal moments for certainly Spock and Chapel. And like you said, the crew as a whole.
Yeah, this episode isn't going to make it into Starfleet's official log for the Enterprise, probably,
Right.
but it's definitely going to be in a memoir.
Mm.
Like it's going to be in someone's memoir, whether it's Spock's, T'Pring's, or Chapel's. And again, if that's what you're looking for, is to really know these characters, then yeah, this is definitely one of those that you don't want to miss.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Flip, thank you so much for coming on and nerding out with me in all the Trekkie goodness that comes about from our discussions. I absolutely love chatting with you. Before we go, do we have any parting thoughts about this episode, about Strange New Worlds as a whole, about the franchise, about your journey through the franchise, about another experience here on the Computer Resume podcast? Any parting thoughts before we go?
Well, I would say if this is anyone's first encounter with me, hi, nice to meet everyone. You should definitely go back and read and listen to my previous appearances on this podcast, because there's some good discussion happening there.
For sure.
If I'm not mistaken, I know I did a Discovery episode.
Yes.
And I want to say it's the one where Tilly goes into the Sporeverse.
I think so. Yes.
It was definitely Tilly centric. I do remember that.
Yeah.
And I remember my other one was we got to talk about Captain Angel, my favorite guest star of season 1. So I'm always happy to come and talk about Star Trek with you, because again, it almost feels like my experience on this podcast mirrors Chapel's experience with the Kirkovians. It's like you don't realize how important something is until you're forced to, I don't want to say defend it, because I'm not defending my love of Star Trek. I'm simply centering on it and expressing it. And that's when I remember like how much this show means to me, how much these characters mean to me, is when I really do take the time to celebrate them. And I think your podcast is such a good space for celebrating this franchise. So thank you for having me. Also, if you want to follow me on my journeys, you can find me currently. I'm most active on Instagram and Threads, at Flippe Kikee, pretty easy. I do have some exciting things in the works. I have some Trek Queen show ideas that I am developing and working on. Those are going to be a little more in the further future. Definitely 2026 at some point. But coming up on the horizon, I have a brand new project that I'm so excited to be working on and to one day share, which is an original Star Trek short story, an original Star Trek story set in the universe that we love, with some brand new characters of my own invention. I want to tell stories that relate to my experience as a human, that can hopefully connect with people that can relate to that experience. And if you don't relate to my experience, maybe it can help you get a window into someone else's experience and make us understand each other better. That's what Star Trek is supposed to be doing. And I'm excited to throw my hat in that storytelling ring.
Awesome. Hopefully I'm not out of line with saying you've given me some some very choice nuggets of things that are happening behind the scenes and things that we can see in the future. And I'll just say I am so excited as a fan. I can't wait. And I can't wait till it's in the world and live. And I'm so excited. So excited. Well, folks, next time we will have another very special guest for Star Trek Strange New Worlds Season 2, Episode 6, Lost in Translation, which is available wherever you decide to watch Star Trek. Flip, where again can people find you on the internet and support things you got going on and just interact with you and become a huge fan of yours just like I am?
Aw, thank you. You can follow me on Instagram or Threads. Those are my mainstays. Both are at Flippe Kikee, FLIPPE KIKEE. I will be posting in the very near future. I'll be posting some character sketches from my new story on Instagram, and I'll probably be asking for some input on Threads because you know what? Trekkies are the best people to give me good Star Trek ideas. So if you want to come engage, come do it. My DMs are open.
And I am at Mr. Todd A. Davis on all of the socials. From all of us at the Computer Resume podcast, thank you so much for listening. And I'll see you in 10 Forward.
Support us on Patreon and like, rate, review, and share on all your favorite platforms. Feel free to send us your subspace transmissions to computerresumepodcast@gmail.com or at Computer Resume on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. The Computer Resume podcast was created and produced by Mr. Todd A. Davis. Our logo was designed by Will Martin and Justin Bishop. The opening theme was produced by Justin Bishop, and our outro music was provided with permission by Dronode. Additional music was provided by Mr. Todd A. Davis and Gary Horn, and the voice of Computer Resume podcast and executive producer, me, Kat Davis. # LLAP. We'll see you next time.
Going through a Star Trek. We're doing Star Trek stuff in space. We probably got some phasers and shuttle pods, and we're gonna find a brand new race.
How's that for a slice of fried gold?